is no wall in the immigration bill. None. Zero zip. I believe that means it's dead on arrival because we've seen this play before. I mean, I've done this 3 times. What do you think, Jim Geraghty?
Okay, so yes, without if you'd said there's border funding, but there might not borders, fencing, but there's might not be as much as some people wanted. Maybe this had a shot. Maybe you could negotiate over that and bump it up a little. Having none, like Hugh, what's in this for the folks who want to secure a border? What's the upside?
I am told the upside are more return flights. Okay, I've been told, oh, we're gonna turn a lot of these people around on airplanes real quick. More detention facilities and more border police. I don't think that's enough.
Yeah. Work permits still in there?
Don't know, but I don't care because if there's no wall, yeah, I start with the wall.
Yeah,
If there's no wall, it's not going to work for me because for whatever reason, Democrats have a fetish about it.
Late Bush years, right? You and I have been around this for a long time. I was appearing on your show way back then. And there was a proposal at one point because they wanted to have a path to citizenship, path to legalization. And they were talking about income taxes and the fact that certain people who work in the country illegally have been working and making money and earning wages for a long time, but they had never paid income taxes. And one of the proposals they had put forth was that they wanted those who are in the country illegally to pay back taxes on 3 of the past 5 years that they've been working in the United States. And people pointed out if you're an American citizen, you have to pay taxes on 5 of the past 5 years that you've been like, wait, you entered the country illegally, you broke the law. Why are we giving you a better deal than what U.S.
And why are we giving you a path to citizenship? I've always believed if you enter the country illegally, you might be able to stay. In fact, I'm kind of a squish on this. I'm a rhino on letting people stay. And my buddy Levin calls me a rhino. And one of the reasons I'm a big regularization guy. But you don't get to be a citizen if you enter the country illegally in Hugh Hewitt's world.
That is the holy grail. That is the biggest prize. And we should reserve this for the best people. Like today's entire morning jolt just goes through the entire concept of, first of all, I go through all the Customs and Border Protection numbers on the number of people they've caught who have criminal records. And the number, let's sort out the drug offenses from violent crimes, sexual assault, DUIs, and in some cases homicide and attempted homicide. Then I talk about the people on the terrorist watch list. If you want to say, oh, it's a very small minority, okay, yeah, but 19 guys with box cutters put this country through hell. So I really want that number of people we're catching at the border, either at ports of entry or in between ports of entry. I want that number to be as close to 0 as possible. I don't.
I talked to a former national security official over the weekend. 25,000 Chinese nationals entered the United States over the southern border that we know about last year. This person pointed out to me, you don't get to leave China without permission.
Yeah.
Nobody kind of skips out. They were sent. Not necessarily for malicious. They might just let them go. But doesn't that alarm you, Jim?
Oh, absolutely. So I went through. So last year I was speaking at Freedom Fest at Memphis, and it was a mock trial, open borders on trial. I regret that I did not win the argument. I was the restrictionist side. It's a libertarian crowd, Hugh. First problem is you say drug dealers are coming across the border. Well, the libertarian crowd, drug dealers are some of their best friends. And you say, well, okay, well, gun runners are coming. No, illegal gun dealers are some of their best friends too. So it was a very tough crowd. But I went through this, and my entire basic concept was, why do you need to have a border? Why do we need to have an ability to screen people who come into this country? And the short answer is there are good people who want to come into this country, people who would make good Americans, and there are bad people who want to come into this country. And until you can sort them out, you are endangering the liberties of American people. And unfortunately, the libertarian jury was not convinced. They think
let me ask you about the wall, because there are some conservatives who don't believe it's effective. I believe it's not 100% fixed, but that it slows people down and it makes it easier for the Border Patrol to do its job. And more importantly, it is symbolic. It is the external expression of an internal resolve to control your border. What do you believe about the wall, Jim? Do you think it's a necessary thing?
Accurate. I keep going back to testimony from 2017 from Brandon Judd, who's the head of the Union for Customs and Border Protection. All retired guys who are very straightforward about this. And they keep saying, We don't need, there's 2,000 miles on the southern border. We don't need the Great Wall of China. We don't need
Correct.
absolute from the Gulf of Mexico to the Pacific Ocean. They wanted, I believe it was 300 more miles of personal fencing, and they wanted to reinforce certain amount of fencing that was in place. As you know, we made some progress on this during the Trump years, but really, mostly it was replacing the old stuff, which was a good step. It was a necessary step, but it was not anywhere near sufficient. And he says, when you put up the fencing, what you do is you put them into a smaller area in between the fences, and that's where the Customs and Border Protection vehicles go back and forth, and that's where they catch them. And he's saying it's not, it's not going to be a perfect solution, but it's going to make things a lot easier. And I ran the numbers. You could get the fencing that he wants for 2.7 billion. All right. The government spent more than 3 billion on office furniture during the pandemic. Nancy Pelosi just got 3 billion for the high-speed rail somewhere out by Bakersfield. You can find $3 billion in the budget, like behind the couch cushions in the U.S. government right now. And the idea, like,
so here's my dilemma. It's not that
right?
expensive. The grand total is not the biggest wall that anyone wants is 900 miles long. That's the biggest. The smallest is 600. I want to go for the biggest, 900, and I want it to be tall, and I want it to be unbroken by Indian treaty lands. You got to do overrides. If it only costs $5 billion and it's only 900 miles, why wouldn't the Democrats give that to us?
Because I think when you talk about that internal resolve, I think that actually there's great symbolism in this argument. And after having demonized Trump on the wall for the entirety of, I'm going to say Trump's first term, with the implication of the possibility of a second term. Although I got to tell you, I listen to my colleagues, Andy McCarthy, and he makes this very good point that right now the Republicans are negotiating against the status quo in which all of this is illegal, in which none of this stuff is supposed to be permitted in the first place. And now they're, but I don't like this talk that we can wait until Trump is president in January 2025 and get a better deal, because Trump might not win.
Oh, no, I am for asking for the right deal. Jim, can you hang around for a second? Because I want to talk to you about the attack on Americans. Don't go anywhere. Andy McCarthy is exactly right on this. We do not need this law, this new compromise, in any way, shape, or form for President Biden to enforce the border. We need President Biden to enforce the border. It's a giant trick. It's a trap. I feel like that guy in Star Wars. It's a trap. Jim Geraghty is my guest on the Hugh Hewitt Show. Jim, yesterday, 3 American soldiers were killed, 34 were seriously wounded in an attack by Iran and Iranian-backed militias in and near our base in Jordan and Syria. What should the United States do?
If under President Geraghty, I would be asking the Pentagon, the intelligence community, the entire National Security Council, how many ways can we hurt the Iranian mullahs? And how many ways can we do all simultaneously? Can we squeeze them, not just military? I don't want to just, Operation Sapphire and expose their spies. I want to hurt them in as many different ways as possible simultaneously, so that they not only like, oh, wow, they've bombed this site or something like that. I don't want a proportional response. I want a wildly disproportionate response. I want them to turn the lights on, to flick the light switches in Tehran and nothing's working anymore. I want cyber attacks. I want infrastructure attacks. I want them to wake up, to pick up the telephone and say, this is President Geraghty. Don't mess with our people. We are going to make you pay in ways you could never imagine. And I want this to recognize that we've been at a de facto state with the Iranians since 1979. We've been, the idea, we can sit down with these guys and hammer out a deal on nuclear weapons has always been absurd. So
there are 3 target sets. There are 3. One of the refineries, because if you bring the refineries down, the people of Iran are out of gas. Second, their nuclear facilities, which we don't want them to operate anyway. And third, they have a Navy, and we can sink it. All of them or any of them?
Yeah. We can expose their operatives overseas. Like there's a whole menu of options. The question is, we've never had the nerve to do it. And what we see from Biden in every strike against U.S. targets going back over the last couple of months, and strikes in the Red Sea against U.S. ships and Navy ships, et cetera, is very similar to his approach going back to dealing with Putin in the invasion of Ukraine. Biden is most terrified of ever doing anything that could be perceived as escalatory, and keeps emphasizing that everything we're going to do is proportional. Well, if you announce to the world everything you're going to do is proportional, then the enemy gets to decide how big this fight gets. And they get to prepare.
I hope.
They know, well, we're But
I hope we are disproportional. We might be, in which case I'll
that's the whole point,
compliment
is
him.
like you have to hit them much harder to discourage them from throwing that second punch. Otherwise, you just
Yes,
end up with this perfectly proportional back and forth ping pong.
they love this.
What we can see this. Why can Biden not see this?
I don't know. Let me play a little Joe Biden for you from a South Carolina rally. This on Saturday. Cut number 20.
Donald Trump, when he was commander in chief, refused to visit a cemetery, U.S. cemetery outside of Paris for fallen American soldiers. And he referred to those heroes, and I quote, as suckers and losers. He actually said that. He said that. How dare he say that? How dare he talk about my son and all of us like that?
All right, so there's a lot of things to unpack here. That account is disputed, but I don't know what Beau Biden has to do with it, and I'm not sure why it's relevant now, but I do think the president is losing his grip. What do you think?
It's an old movie, Hugh, old Yeller. Joe Biden has many times referred to Beau Biden as dying either in Iraq or Afghanistan. He died of brain cancer. Joe Biden adamantly believes that the burn pits gave Beau Biden brain cancer. My understanding is that medically there's no reason to conclude that. We don't know why brain cancer takes root. We know that burn pits can be very bad for you. And I know some folks who served over there who had serious lung issues. And burn pits are bad, but no one's drawn a medical tie between the burn pits that Beau Biden was around over in, I believe it was Iraq. It was not Afghanistan, right?
Correct.
Biden has said my son died in Afghanistan many times, and it's really, he's made that connection. And I think, look, you and I are both fathers. You lose a child, I can only imagine the pain, the horror, everything you go through. I think Joe Biden has decided, as a way of dealing with that pain, of believing that his son effectively died because of what he did in Iraq, and he sees him as being a casualty of that war, and he speaks about his. Yeah.
But do you think he's losing it? Because I think the current president has an anger management problem and has an 80-year-old's problem with emotional control. What do you think? 30 seconds.
Oh, I think that's been abundantly clear, and nothing's going to get any easier from here on out.
Jim Geraghty, good to talk to you. Follow him on X at Jim Geraghty. Read his Morning Jolt at National Review. See him in the Washington Post. See him here next week.